Today's lesson 4, absolute value graphs. I hope that things went all right with yesterday's lesson, and I'll probably revisit that with another shorter lesson again, not for you today, but probably for you tomorrow. So today we're going to talk about absolute value graphs, and you're going to want to take these notes on whatever pages are next in your notebook. Don't worry about the pages, just number the pages and make sure you've got your table of contents filled in. So I'm going to try and go through this kind of quickly, so please pause when you need to copy things down, because I want to try and keep these recordings short so they don't go on and become long and dry and boring for you. So again, this is another one of those parent graphs. So we did the step function yesterday, and we did some piecewise functions, and absolute value falls nicely underneath that piecewise idea of graphs or functions. So we're going to look at this parent graph of y equals the absolute value of x. So looking at this, and when we think about absolute value, really a better way to read this is to say the distance x is from 0. So the distance that -3 is from 0 is going to be a +3. And so -3 is going to go here at +3, and the distance -2 is, and so on. I don't think that this should be, we're just plugging in those negative numbers, and they are still a positive distance from zero, and so 0 is 0 units from itself. And then on the other side, now remember when I said to you that I wanted you to have your parabola nice and rounded at the bottom? Here is exactly why I wanted that parabola rounded at the bottom of, or at the vertex, whether it was the bottom or the top of your parabola graph, because here you can see that you're going to, let's get, we'll just keep it at that color, I guess. So when you do this, you are going to have a V-shaped graph starting at 0, 0. So that's why I was really kind of picky about the idea that it needed to be rounded at the bottom. So this is the shape of the parent graph. We're going to talk about changes and movements and why this is a piecewise function. So really that's the next question, is how could we write this as a piecewise function? So when you're looking at the graph, it's almost like you can see two parts. You've got one on this left side of the y-axis and one to the right side of the y-axis. So going forward, it says the graph of this piecewise function consists of two rays, is V-shaped, and opens up. This is defining the absolute value graph. So to the left of x equals 0, the line is y equals the opposite of x. So negative x, you put in a -1, the opposite comes out. You put in a -2, a +2 comes out. So the opposite is what you're getting for the y. So on the right-hand side of this line, now remember that the line y equals x is just this line right here. Let me go back to this pen here. So this line right here is your line x equals 0. Nice, not so nice and straight, but you have the right idea. So moving on from there, notice that the graph is symmetric about the y-axis or over the y-axis, because every point on xy, on the graph, then we have the opposite -x, or the opposite of xy is also on it. So it is symmetric about the y-axis, just like the parabola is. So the definitions that you need to have for this absolute value function is the highest or lowest point on the graph of an absolute value function is called the vertex. Nothing really new there, but it'd be a good idea to write it down. An axis of symmetry of the graph of a function is a vertical line that divides the graph into mirror images. So that's why the parabola and the axis of symmetry both have, the absolute value function and the parabola both have an axis of symmetry, and an absolute value graph has one axis of symmetry that passes through the vertex, as does the parabola. So they are very similar. Okay, now Next, absolute value function is the blue graph or the blue line. You have your vertex here is the purple piece, the purple dot point, and your axis of symmetry is that line x equals 0. So if you were to write the ordered pair, for every point on this line, it would be the x value would be 0.